Hello everybody and welcome back to Double Play Baseball. In this video, Ryan and I are going to break down the Dodgers 2022 offseason and then take a look forward to their season preview in 2023. We're doing this for all teams in Major League Baseball. This week, we're covering the NL West, but make sure you stay tuned and subscribe and hit the like button to make sure you see your favorite team or favorite division. Ryan, I know you're a big Dodgers fan. You got a nice new Dodgers shirt on. I think it's time to talk some Dodgers offseason and season preview.
Yeah, let's do it. We can get right into it. It was a very busy or almost lack of busy offseason for the Dodgers. We can talk about the names that they kept and lost this offseason. We'll start with the ones they added and kept. They re-signed Clayton Kershaw to a one-year deal. There was a little bit of speculation, not as much as last year. Noah Syndergaard they trade for Miguel Rojas and extend him. They signed JD Martinez, and then on the flip side, they lose some big pieces, Trey Turner, Cody Bellinger. Don't re-sign Tyler Anderson, who had a resurgence this year, and then also you lose kind of the captain, not official captain of your team, in Justin Turner. So there were some big names coming in, big names leaving for the Dodgers who have been there for a while, and then a guy with Trey Turner who's maybe a top 10 player in baseball we'll talk about. Jack, which one of those do you think was probably the biggest for the Dodgers?
I think it's hard to say that the biggest loss was not Trey Turner, and that's the biggest piece of this Dodgers offseason. And we're so used to every offseason being like, wow, the Dodgers got Mookie Betts this offseason. They got Freddie Freeman this offseason. This time it's someone's on the way out, and that's Trey Turner, who I think we both agree is the best shortstop in baseball when Fernando Tatis moves to the outfield. And Trey's going to make a name for himself even more in Philadelphia, but he was never really... I don't think that the Dodgers fans really ever seemed to fully appreciate his talents, but we were both agreeing that he's borderline a top 10 player and could easily be that this year. I think the Dodgers lineup's going to miss him because they had that vaunted top three of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Trey Turner. Of course, the other two were still there, but the loss of Trey Turner, well, I think Dodgers fans came into the offseason saying, we're okay if Trey leaves. They didn't really do anything to replace the shortstop position. So if you're losing a borderline top 10 player in baseball and you're not doing a ton to fill in his shoes in the lineup, and then also at the shortstop position where we're not 100% sold on what they're going to do quite yet, I think that's a big loss for the Dodgers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the Dodgers necessarily said we're okay if we lose him. It was more of kind of an acceptance that they were going to. I mean, I think they made a little bit of a run at him, but it was clear he wanted to be on the East Coast, and I mean that was proven. He turned down like one of the biggest contracts in baseball history with the Padres just to go back to Philadelphia. He did not want to be on the West Coast, so I mean, as much as Dodgers fans maybe didn't appreciate him, he didn't really want to be with the Dodgers anyway. So I mean, I ended up going with a different direction for my biggest add or subtraction. Trey Turner is definitely the biggest loss on the field, but I went with the loss of the other Turner, Justin Turner, is the biggest for me. I think they kind of adequately replace his offensive production, but what you really can't measure is the clubhouse presence that he brought. Like I said, he was the kind of the captain for the team, and I mean, you lose a fan favorite, a guy who was kind of well respected by the team. The teammates have kind of talked about how losing him has kind of been the biggest hurt this offseason, and like I said, they replaced him with JD Martinez, so they're going to get equal, if not better, production from the DH position this season. But it's going to hurt for the team dynamic, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that this coming season.
I was scrolling on TikTok on our Double Play channel the other day, and Justin Turner's wife had made this TikTok from a golf tournament where there were just tons of Dodgers, and this is after he signed with Boston. He's clearly still friends with all of them. Joe Kelly was there. Nomar Garciaparra was there. Like, Dodgers people from all walks of life and all different generations, and Justin Turner is still heavily, enshrined in that group of people. So I think you're right. It is a big clubhouse loss for me. Trey Turner is just such a big loss on the actual field that I had to go with Trey Turner number one. And I feel like this is the first time that we're talking about Dodgers losses in the offseason as opposed to some guys that they added, because they are always adding, and we'll talk about them potentially adding a big piece next year, which is maybe why they had a quieter offseason. But let's grade the offseason first before we kind of project towards the future. For their grade, I'm going with a C-. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever seen the Dodgers have a less active offseason, which for me, it was kind of relieving because, like I said, I'm used to seeing the Dodgers signing everyone under the sun, but it's also kind of scary. Like, the Dodgers feeling like they don't need to go out and make a big splash, whether that is what they're going to do next year or whether they feel like they want to have a more down-to-earth team in 2023. Nevertheless, I mean, they got clearly worse on paper. I'm a little bit doubtful of some of their signings, like Miguel Rojas and Noah Syndergaard, who have had flashes in the past, but I didn't think Syndergaard was all that great last year, and I know the Dodgers pitching farm is revitalizing guys all the time, but some of the moves that they made I wasn't the biggest fan of. Then again, some of the ones that they did I do like. I like JD Martinez, and I think that he'll fit in well as a DH in LA, but I'm going C-.
Yeah, I went with the C. I'm just kind of content with I'm content with this grade. Kind of looking at this offseason in general, it doesn't look great, but I mean, you look at what the Dodgers have. You mentioned the Syndergaard's not great, but he's going to be probably a 4 to start the season, and then towards the end he'll move to a 5, and maybe even not even being on the staff if you get some rookie production. I mean, you got Kershaw, Urias, Gonsolin. That's your top 3 right now. Buehler's going to come back late in the year. I mean, that's your top 4. Syndergaard's now a 5. And if you get production from some of the rookies, like if Gavin Stone comes up, or Bobby Miller, if they pitch well, or even Ryan Pepiot, who, I mean, you mentioned that golf tournament. I want to mention, did you see his hole-in-one from that tournament?
I did not.
Yeah, he got a hole-in-one in the tournament. It was actually kind of cool. They got it all on video. But yeah, for like off track a little bit. But this offseason, it doesn't look great on paper. But like I said, I'm content with it. I've hoped that they're gonna hopefully extend Julio Urias. It'd be horrible to let him walk. He's a free agent after this year, and then also hopefully make a run to get a guy like Shohei. Well, maybe I am worried a little bit that getting Shohei might mean losing Julio. So I mean, we'll see what the Dodgers do this coming offseason, and I think that's going to affect how I look back on this offseason in the future.
Well, I've spoken about it for the last couple of years, and I think with you offline and then also sometimes on the podcast is like, I think what the Dodgers have done the last couple of years is finally catching up to them a bit. I said eventually they're going to have to decide and make some tough monetary decisions because they still have to extend the young guys like Urias, like Will Smith. And then, I was saying they might lose a guy like a Corey Seager. Look at last offseason. You might lose Cody Bellinger or not be able to re-sign Trey Turner or Max Scherzer, who you traded for. And all 4 of those guys are no longer in the Dodgers blue. So I think that they went all in for World Series a couple years ago, and obviously they can still be all in, but it is catching up to them a little bit. Although it does definitely worry me because it is so off of their norm to not be making some big splash move in an offseason. So it does kind of scare me a little bit, like what do they know that we don't? But if we're going to talk about what to expect for this coming season, I'm going to say another season at the top of the NL West. Maybe not winning it this year. We're going to get into that in our predictions down the line, kind of right next to opening day. But there's going to be a lot more parity for them with the rest of the National League. I don't think they're winning 110 again and separating themselves way ahead to the number 1 seed. I think you're going to see teams like the Mets, the Braves, the Padres, maybe even the Cardinals, a lot closer to the Dodgers in the standings, and the Padres especially in the standings in the National League West.
Yeah, for me, what I chose what to expect. I the only thing I can really say for certain is that they're going to be back in the playoffs. I think that's kind of clear. They still have, I mean, they get worse, but they still have a playoff team. I spoil my predictions a little bit. I think I'm probably still going to have them to win the West. I just think there's a little bit of problems with the Padres, which we'll talk about, or maybe we have talked about whenever we talk about the Padres upcoming season. But yeah, I mean, you kind of covered that. There's going to be a lot more competitiveness, and like we said, maybe they need a down-to-earth team to kind of have a chip on their shoulder. Dodgers haven't had those in the past, and they've come up short in the playoffs. So we'll really see what this upcoming season brings. I can either see it being a complete hit and they win the World Series, or a complete disaster and they're another first-round exit. And so it's just, I really don't know what to expect. The only thing I can really say is that they'll be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, getting into our bold predictions to kind of wrap it up, you and I were talking last postseason when the Dodgers got knocked out, and the big takeaway that you had was when the Dodgers keep fielding these super teams, they don't really come together in the playoffs, and it's less of a team building at bats and bringing runners in when they've got runners in scoring position, and they haven't had that cohesive offense when it gets to the playoffs. I think with this smaller team, one of the reasons I'm scared is because I think the Dodgers are leaning into more of that kind of grassroots approach where they're going to bring up some of their rookies. They're going to work together as a squad. They're not looking to win 110 games and coast through the entire season. They want more of that battle, and they want to be a more cohesive offense. So for that, I kind of dug into the stats, and my bold prediction is that for the first time since 2017, the Dodgers team playoff OPS is going to be higher than their team regular season OPS. Back in the last 2 seasons, actually, the Dodgers have had 760 and 770 regular season OPSs, respectively. but pretty much at 700 the last two postseasons. So they've gone from one of the best hitting teams in baseball to a relatively average hitting team in the postseason. In 2017, they had a playoff OPS of 786 with a regular season OPS of 771. And I think a scrappier team like they're building this year, that's kind of my prediction. I'm not going to say that it's going to lead them all the way to the World Series, but I think that they are going to come through more in the playoffs because they're going to have 162 games of scrappiness across their record.
I mean, I think I could see that one happening. Hopefully that does happen, of course, when you perform well, have a chance at World Series. But my bold prediction is going to be that on August 1st, the day after the trade deadline, Shohei Ohtani is a Los Angeles Dodger. They were quiet last season. I don't have faith in the Angels again. I've learned my lesson on that one. I think if they're smart, they're going to get rid of Ohtani if they're out of the playoff race. And I think the Dodgers, they were quiet last offseason. They kind of let the Padres go after Juan Soto and let other couple guys maybe you should have traded for last offseason. You didn't go after them. Maybe you're saving for this one and you'll kind of get a jump start on also extending Ohtani at that point. And that's my bold prediction for this season.
That is very bold. And, of course, that would have to come with an extension the following offseason. It would take one of the biggest packages we've probably ever seen. You would assume it's probably going to be bigger than a Juan Soto package. I'm not really sure, but there are going to be so many teams bidding. I mean, you feel like there's a couple teams in this division that might be on an Ohtani. You never know with the Padres. You've got the Mets that are going to be interested. Probably the Yankees will be interested. There's a lot of teams around baseball that are going to want Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what do you even think a package would look like for a guy like Shohei?
You know, I don't know, because at the end of the day, it is a rental, but I think the Angels are going to want a lot, and that's the only thing that I could kind of see halting a deal. Maybe they don't get what they want, so they don't trade him, and then they end up losing him anyway. I can kind of see that happening, especially with the Angels. But I think a potential package would have to be your top 3 prospects at least, and then a couple more guys, maybe in your top 10. I think it's going to be at least 5 quality prospects to get him at the very least.
And I feel like Shohei's the kind of guy where he wants to, once he lands on a team, he wants to stick with them forever. Of course, it hasn't worked with the Angels because they're not making the playoffs. But a team like the Dodgers, where if they traded for him and it is a rental, you have to feel like they'd have a very strong upper hand when it comes to negotiating a potential contract extension. I think if he's on the West Coast at all after the trade deadline, he's going to sign an extension with that team. Probably not the Angels because I think he'd want to leave in free agency, but it doesn't seem like that guy that wants to balance, 7 different offers of millions and millions of dollars and then pick a team. And so I think if he's staying in California, where everyone in California loves him, it's a great market for him to be. I think if he ends up on one of those teams after the trade deadline, he'll sign an extension with them.
Yeah, it'll be one of the more exciting things we've seen in a while, and that coupled with all the stars we've had recently, there's going to be some stars coming up on free agency, but Shohei Ohtani sweepstakes are going to be a wild one to follow. I'll be refreshing Twitter probably every minute.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for watching this video on our YouTube channel. If you guys really enjoyed it, make sure you go down and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're going to have a playlist with all these season previews, and for each of the divisions, we're trying to bring on other creators as well from YouTube, from TikTok, from a bunch of different other platforms, so there are going to be those as well. We're going to have all the NL West ones up within this week, and then the rest of the divisions are going to come all the way up until opening day. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.